Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for tuning in with Pat Pick here live on Sports Radio. You're for all sports. On tonight's show, D-Lo will join me momentarily. Take care of business real quick. Well, tonight's show, Game 7. Enough said, we'll discuss that matchup, what the ramifications of the win for the San Antonio Spurs and the loss for the Oklahoma City Thunder. A lot of questions coming out of that series, and we're going to dive into all those things right there. Plus, what's going on with Peyton Clark? Things haven't really been real rosy since she entered the W, so we'll discuss that as well. Plus, the Magic got a new coach in Sean Sweeney. We'll discuss that as well. That and much more around the world of basketball, but this is a fast break here live. All right, so spread your for sports. We catch you on the other side after these messages.
Hi, eSports Radio fans. This show is brought to you by Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, single-A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all-brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, is low in sugar, and high in protein. Go to their website at planetjerky.net and follow them on Instagram at Planet Jerky. Planet Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet.
For the last 10 years, iSports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Make sure to follow us at iSports Radio on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube to keep up with the latest in sports and with all of our shows. Also, make sure to check out our daily updated website at iSportsRadio.com. At iSportsRadio.com, you can see our daily show schedule and check out all of our show pages with personal bios to learn a little bit more about each of our awesome hosts. In addition to our show pages, you can catch the iSports Radio blog, Hall of Fame, Fans of the Month page, and our merchandise shop including t-shirts, tank tops, caps, long sleeves, hoodies, and more. For now over a decade here at iSports Radio, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans, and we thank you all for your support and for making iSports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports.
And welcome in, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the show here tonight. Another beautiful day. Well, depending where you're at. I live in Alabama. If you're new to the show, my name is the Crooks Process. Davidson Crooks. How you doing tonight, ladies and gentlemen? On this May 31st, the last day of May. This year's been trucking along very fast, I must say. So, here on May 31st, we're here live to discuss a thriller Game 7 between the OKC Thunder and the San Antonio Spurs. in Oklahoma City this last night. During the game from beginning to end, lots of ups and downs. We're going to dive all into that here, but first, gotta plug the channels here. If you're new to us here at IE Sports Radio, do give us a follow on X. Give us a follow on X. Give us a follow on YouTube. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Hit that little subscribe button. Hit the little bell notification. Every time we go live here on this show, where it's about 7 p.m., Central Time, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific. Go live, get that bell notification. You'll catch us a little after 7 or so. Boom, we're here to talk to basketball. And all the shows in the network. We got you covered from volleyball, baseball, softball, football, American and worldwide. And with the World Cup coming up, you got to tune into our football show as well. So subscribe to the YouTube channel. Subscribe, hit that little bell notification. Subscribe. Can't stress that enough. Also, I think we're getting our Instagram page restarted. So if you find that on Instagram, let me pull it up for y'all. Our IE Sports Radio page right there on Instagram. Got a new one started up, so do follow that for your latest scores and news on there along the network. So, all right, NBA playoff talk, and I think the last playoff talk we're going to have here, and boy, was it a doozy. Let me get settled in. You knew coming 10 in this game 7 between the Thunder and the San Antonio Spurs that this is a win-to-go-home situation. We all know that game 7. We know what it was. We knew the lines were. Two rivals here. Two rivals, two teams that, if you look at it, kind of on the same level, if you're going to be real. Kind of same level, kind of on the same path, if we're going to be real about that. Now, some of you probably won't want me about that. Got a lot of guys for the mid-20s on down, but very good basketball players. I don't think not too many guys over 30, but that's like the veteran players on veteran deals. But you're talking about your main core guys. So on the Thunder side of things, you got SGA. You got Jalen Williams. You got Chet Holmgren. Talk a lot about him here tonight. Isaiah Hartenstein, Cason Wallace, Jerry McCain, so forth. The other Jalen Williams as well. Lou Dort. On the other side of things, you got Victor Wembanyama, Stephon Castle, Devin Vassell, Julian Champagne, De'Aaron Fox, Dylan Harper. So if you kind of looking to make up this rosters, they very, 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 very similar. Very, very similar. And you kind of saw, and what up, Taryn? How you doing tonight? I missed you the past couple weeks. Good evening, Davidson. The NBA Finals going to be back. Yeah, we're going to get on to that and all that. But I think this game 7 is going to get heavy press here on the show tonight. Heavy press. But so you go into this game, the Spurs back in game 6, they win very handily in game 6 against the Oklahoma City Thunder. And going back to game 6, let me pull that up real quick. $118.91, very handily. Wembanyama had 28 points. Stephon Castle 17. Dylan Harper off the bench, 18 points for him. Vassell, 12 points for him. Champagne had 10 points, who started off very hot in that game. Mind you, in that game 6. De'Aaron Fox didn't play his best game, but 7 assists what he brought. Then you look at the other side of things for OKC. Like I said, not that best outing, but SGA, 15 points. Jeremy Kane, 13. After that, Hartenstein, Holmgren combined for 20 points. The bench, Casey Wallace had 11. So, other than that, the Thunder got punched out, and the Spurs won very handily in that matchup. So, you come into this matchup. Jalen Williams did come back in Game 6 for the Thunder. And he had 4 points and 9 rebounds, but he didn't really contribute much. And then coming to this game, Hugh's going to be out. AJ Mitchell was going to be out. So the Thunder are going to be out 2 of their best players, mind you, in a pivotal Game 7. And you just look and see this matchup and all that, and you're just thinking, like, what's going to happen? The Thunder, let's be honest, during this playoff run, didn't need Jalen Williams that much, if going to be real. And if they probably, Mark, they kind of look back at it, if it's going to be real, if you look back at it, probably should have saved him to this point in this series. Because you took care of the Phoenix Suns. You took care of the Lakers. This series here, I think that's where you needed him in his point production here. Mitchell, same thing. You need his point production here. And you can tell, go and watch this game. If you watch the game back and like that, you can tell the SGA played great, but you needed something else. And we'll dive in all that here to a second. But it was a great game. Did Victor Wembanyama arrive? In my eyes, yes. Is he here? Yes. Is he that dude? Yes. So Victor here, seeing him, the memes and stuff like that, him sending out the hit, to the older vets, say, hey man, F him up. Talking about Jeremy Kane. F him up. Send a message to him. And some of y'all probably looking and saying, you're a Spurs fan, stuff like that. I just coach basketball. I wear a lot of NBA apparel. I got like a Denver Nuggets shirt and all that type of stuff. I'm a Lakers fan. I got that up right here. Kind of wish the Lakers would do something like that. Jeremy Kane sent him a message. You know what I'm saying? Like LeBron or somebody that tell Jackson Hayes, to put an elbow on the chest and send a message, something like that. Stuff like that. But Victor doing this at 22 years old, telling cats to send out hits and all that stuff. That's what you need. That's what you need. You need to see strong messages throughout the series. Say, hey, you ain't gonna make a name off of us. Yeah, that's Lakers, whatnot, but you ain't doing that against us. Now, I appreciate Victor doing that. He probably got a fine for that, but he'll to eat that. But the message was sent. Like you ain't gonna contribute to beating us. That ain't gonna happen, dog. And that's when you kind of saw that, despite this incarnation of the Spurs team, them have never making the playoffs, except for the veterans like Harrison Barnes, who were on the ring, and De'Aaron Fox making the playoff that one time. And Luke Cornett being champion, all that stuff, and so forth. These young dudes came ready to play. And Victor kind of led them the way. And y'all just culminates to Game 7 here. Let's go ahead and dive into. The Spurs defeated the Oklahoma City 111 to 103 in Game 7 of the Western Conference Finals, advancing to their first finals since 2014. Excellent game. The Spurs had the lead from majority of the game. certain pockets toward the end, like the first half, and certain points, I think in the third and fourth, the Thunder kind of, gaining an edge right there. But the Spurs were just on it. They got contributions for everybody. Let me pull this up here. The Spurs controlled the game most of the night, leading for 90% of the contest and surviving multiple Thunder surges late in the fourth quarter. You got double-digit scoring for everybody for the Spurs. Julian Champagnie, Victor Wembanyama, Devin Vassell, even though he didn't shoot the ball very well at all. We're going to be real about that. That's got to shore up right there. And his play got to shore up. If you're a Spurs fan, you got to be worried about that going against the Knicks. Because his turnovers and then Dylan Harper's turnovers, I know he's young, but in the same boat. Those turnovers, they could prove costly against the Knicks. And we talking about a Knicks team that kind of matches up very well with you in a sense. We'll dive into that later, but if you kind of look ahead just a little bit to Wednesday's matchup, the Knicks kind of match up, and I think better defensive sound. It will be real. OG, Miles Bridges, Josh Hart. Now that's guys right there you don't want to mess around against defensively. But I get ahead of myself. So what's to say here? The Spurs control the game. 92% of the contest. Oklahoma City cut the lead to 6 with just 2 minutes remaining, but San Antonio's poised and balanced to close the door. Big shots by Dylan Harper, Julian Champagnie, as well to kind of help contribute with that. Contributing into that win right there for the San Antonio Spurs. And, besides Case and Wallace and SGA, nobody else for OKC really, really stood out. They're going to be real. Nobody else really stood out. And, for the Spurs, Victor Wembanyama had 22 points, 7 rebounds. They were the conference MVP. Like I said, Julian Champagnie, 20 points, including 6 made threes. Like, kind of look at this Spurs makeup of this team. Talking about Victor, got the number 1 overall pick over the Hornets and the Portland Trailblazers about a few years ago. Look where the Hornets at now. I mean, I love Brandon Miller. I'm an Alabama guy. But he's been hurt a lot. And now, I'm not saying he'd be a Hornet lifer, but they drafted guys like Con Knipple, for example, to kind of balance that right there since he's been gone so much. And I said it on our show's account on Fast Breaker ISR on X that Con Knipple was like a godsend for Hornets because he balanced that scoring with him and LaMelo Ball being out. And he deserved all first team NBA rookie team. Scoot Henderson. He had a nice showing for a couple games in the playoffs against the Spurs. But he's been hurt a lot too. And then even then, I'm curious, depending on who the new coach for the Trailblazers will be, I'm curious to see how, how they use him and where they're going to play him at and stuff like that. Because you got Dame coming back. You got Dame coming back to the fold. You still got Drew Holiday. Scoot's not like a 2 guard. He's a point guard. Had to have the ball in his hands. How that's going to help his development? And then you look at the number 1 overall pick with Victor Wembanyama from day one. Got him in there. he took his lumps, injuries and stuff like that as well. But you see the progress, you see the threat, you see how determined he is. The dog in him. And I think, for a lot of these European players coming over now, and one thing I think a lot of these male American players that kind of lack, they got this kind of like this dog in them. They kind of, in this day and age, they kind of sense these American players, that come to the AAU circuit or whatever, are kind of entitled. They think they better than everybody. They let their skill kind of determine how they play basketball. And now you kind of see someone like Victor come into the fold of things, recognize that very early, and then, working with the legends, with the Spurs, who got the easy access, like David Robinson, Tim Duncan, whoever else, that comes through the doors in San Antonio. You got that access right there at his disposal. You saw in the press conference when he talked to Popovich. When he talked about Popovich, he said he couldn't wait to talk to Pop. I think, was it this series or I won the Laker game, but it was during this series. Was it this series or the Timberwolves series? Yeah, Timberwolves series, excuse me. When he lost to the Timberwolves, Pop was waiting for him at the gate of the airport and talking to him all that stuff. That's how you know you got something there. And he took that to heart, and you know what? Okay, I see that. We're going to do better on that stuff. And look where we're at right now. Like I mentioned about earlier, about a few minutes ago, telling Bismack Biyamo, Plumlee, and Olynyk, hey, about getting, sending a notice to not only Jeremy Kane, but the whole OKC team. Hey, man, y'all ain't slick. Y'all ain't slick. Let's send a little message to y'all. All right, y'all ain't slick. Y'all good, but y'all ain't slick. Look where he at right here. At 22 years old. First time in the playoffs. And first time going to the NBA Finals. This dude's special. And I'm not saying he's not the best player in the world yet. But damn, give it a couple more years, Are we talking about him unseating Jokic? Are we talking about him unseating Giannis? Unseating Luka? Unseating Jalen Brunson? Jason Tatum? Kay Cunningham? If the body holds up and all that stuff for Victor, man, you dominate for years to come. You can dominate for years to come. And you got the right structure around him. Like it's not too many NBA teams. I just keep it NBA. I could expand it, but I'm a Titans fan. They do a very decent job. Could be better, but decent job of keeping some veterans around and stuff like that. Talk to the guys, stuff like that. But it could be better. But with the Spurs, they talk about in the broadcast all throughout the series that the vets, the old vets that helped build what their 5 titles got right now, they got easy access. So you only see Tim Duncan, David Robinson in the crowd. Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili, guys like Sean Elliott, Robert Horry, even though he's more of a Laker guy now, but you get my point. Avery Johnson, if he does visit down there. I don't know if he does or not. Tiago's split right now, depending on what happens with him. But you get my point. This dude here is truth. And he saw after the game, that how excited he was to win and stuff like that, how happy he was. And people saying, why are you so happy? Because first trip to the NBA Finals at 22 years old, beating the arch rival, beating the defending NBA champs in their turf against a team he don't like, and especially a player he don't like, Chet Holmgren. Like he hates Chet Holmgren's guts for whatever reason. A lot of people say it stemmed from a USA basketball showcase years ago, like a Nike hoop summer or something like that in Portland. And Chet Holmgren got MVP over him. Victor vowed out, and he's been salty about that ever since. But this dude here, like I said, they figure things out, and it's still a young team, though. Like I mentioned about Vassell, the turnovers and stuff like that, and the bad shooting, that can be corrected and all that stuff. Dylan Harper, careless at times with the ball, but over time that could be, corrected and matured. So, I say all this, saying, it's not the sexiest hell. I mean, stat line, but if you lost the game, there at times a lot of those guys besides SGA was kind of scared to go against him. I'll give credit to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. When Victor kind of got the switches on and stuff like that, SGA went at him and shot the ball over him and got some nice, clean shots over him. And that's why SGA was your back-to-back MVP, because that was fearless play right there by him. Fearless play. And, you got to give credit what is due. Let me get this off real quick. You got to give credit when it's due about Shai and whatnot. He did his thing. And going to the chat real quick. Henry says the Spurs won a game far more than the Thunder lost it. Very true. Then the Thunder lost it. The defense was amazing. Even the shots SGA made, they were amazing shots. He had very, very, very hard for. Yes, I agree. He had to work hard for those shots. And with Victor's length and all that stuff, you gotta shoot very high on that. And I'm pretty sure you practice shots for that, and I'm pretty sure they do all the time. These guys, all they do is play ball and train, all that stuff. Unlimited, all that stuff. One thing, I ain't done this in a while, but you get like a very tall broomstick, like a straw broomstick, and you hold it very high, and you kind of old school way, kind of trying to shoot over the middle of that broomstick and whatnot, and work on high shots if you playing against a tall defender, all that stuff. I'm pretty sure they work on that type of stuff. If you're the OKC Thunder or other teams around the league, I'm pretty sure you do. But yeah, Henry made a great point. SGA played great. Did all he could. But it just wasn't enough right there. And to transition to OKC real quick. Talking about Shai real quick. 35 points, 9 assists, 12, 11 for the field. You know, you couldn't ask more for him in a game 7 situation. Let me pull this up right here. You know, free throws, 12 for 22 for the OKC Thunder. I mean, 17-22, excuse me. So I'm not saying you can't go perfect from the line, but, you know, those 5 points, you were at what? 108, 111. You come out talking about different circumstances there. 12 for 35 from 3-point land for the Thunder as well. 23 assists to 21 to the Spurs. Spurs win the rebounding advantage 40-38. Steals about the same. Blocks, OKC had the advantage. And 13 turnovers for the OKC Thunder. There. What went wrong for OKC? Chet Holmgren struggled. Bottom line. 4 points, only 2 shot attempts. Injuries to Jalen Williams and H.A. Mitchell, like I mentioned, limited the depth in a sense. And your 2 star players that you played big money to, with those contract extensions kicking in here soon, and Holmgren and Williams really kind of contribute to that. Because even with Chet Holmgren struggles, if you had Jalen Williams, he kind of picks up that slack with his 18 to 20 points average right there. But as we all know, you know, he ain't really been available all year for the most part. And like I said earlier, I think, you know, if you're OKC, you could have kept him up for the Phoenix series. Damn sure could have kept him up for the Lakers. This series right here, you a chance to play him, but damn, that hamstring must have been really, really messed up for him to come back in game 6 and then not play game 7. Yeah, I hope he gets back to healthy and all that, because he's a very fine player. I love his play ball. Very versatile, all that. But damn, you can tell they missed that versatility on that, you know, for them, for the OKC Thunder, because they won't get for Holmgren. I'm very disappointed with Holmgren in his play. 4 points, 4 rebounds. You know, he did have 2 steals and 2 blocks. But, you know, that don't mean jack squat if he win the game. Lou Dort only played like 15 minutes, only scored like 3 points. You know, I mentioned it on the show's account on X that if you're coachless runner, Mark, I always get his name messed up. Mark Dayton, would you, like, in the second half, I mean, fourth quarter, excuse me, would you even bother putting Chet Holmgren back in the game and just leave Jalen Williams, that was Jalen Williams, the one that played at Arkansas, would you just keep him in the game? Because he's been playing pretty well, playing pretty decent, shooting the ball very well, you know, showing emotion, all that stuff, and stuff like that when timeouts come about. Would you just ever keep him in the game and just keep Chet Holmgren out? And for the most part, yeah, I mean, that happened, but you saw Chet Holmgren back in the early fourth quarter, in which, you know, as a coach, you throw him out there to kind of see what he does for the first couple of minutes, and then if things are going to your satisfaction, then you just yank him out, and then that's exactly what happened. Like, Chet Holmgren was damn near unplayable in that fourth quarter. Hartenstein only played like 20 minutes. You know, he wasn't getting those floaters off like he was last game. You know, Caruso played well. McCain was okay. Wallace, like showed up like he should. So, despite your big men not playing well, despite some of your role players not playing their best, you know, you still lost by 9 points. 8 points, excuse me. You know, if Vassell didn't make that dunk, I'm talking about 6 points. So, if you look at things if you're OKC, and we'll take a break here in just a second. If you look at things if you're OKC, it sucks that you don't get a chance to repeat, but it's it's not I don't say the worst loss in the world, but you can rebound off of this. You can beat this team. You match up well with this team. It's just kind of, can you regroup here? And that's the thing. Can you regroup here and beat them next year through the regular season? Because they're going to be marquee matchups next year. And if you meet again in the playoffs. Because y'all going to be seeing each other. Let's be real. These two teams will be seeing a lot of each other for years to come in the playoffs. Not saying every single year, but they're going to see each other a lot in the coming years in the playoffs. So you got to be prepared for that. You got to be prepared right here. That every time y'all match up, it's on. So I'm gonna dive more deep into OKC and what should they do afterwards, all that stuff in the offseason. We'll see. Because, a lot of discussion been talked about, go ahead and ship out Chet Holmgren right now. Or to go ahead and ship out Jalen Williams right now. Or blah, 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 all that stuff. Let's kill the noise. Let's sit back, analyze things, and all that. And we'll talk about the OKC, what they should do afterwards, after this game. But this is Fast Break here, live for Sports Radio, your League Forward Sports, and catch you on the other side.
For the last 10 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Make sure to follow us at IE Sports Radio on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube to keep up with the latest in sports and with all of our shows. Also, make sure to check out our daily updated website at iesportsradio.com. At iesportsradio.com, you can see our daily show schedule and check out all of our show pages with personal bios to learn a little bit more about each of our awesome hosts. In addition to our show pages, you can catch the iSports Radio blog, Hall of Fame, Fans of the Month page, and our merchandise shop, including t-shirts, tank tops, caps, long sleeves, hoodies, and more. For now over a decade here at IE Sports Radio, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans, and we thank you all for your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports.
And welcome back to the broadcast here tonight, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Crooks process here for IE Sports Radio, your League Forward Sports. And like I said earlier in the show, do follow IE Sports Radio on X and on YouTube. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Once we go live every Sunday at 7 p.m. Central Time, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific. You get that notification. We'll go live after 7 or so. We'll see. Depends how soon I get my notes, all the stuff together. all that good jazz. So, having said all that, now go back to the couple comments here. Oh, Marcus Los, great in the chat. He says the best series all playoffs. Yeah, if you kind of look at it, if you kind of like before we talk about the NBA finals, all that stuff, let's look at the NBA playoffs as a whole before I talk about more about the Thunder here. This playoffs here, as we kind of concluded, you had like a lot of intrigue and a lot of promise, but a lot of things didn't happen. Let's go to the East first. Marcus's team, if y'all say in the chat or not, but Marcus's team, the Boston Celtics, probably got a gift when Jason Tatum said he's going to come in and play for the play towards the end of the season. I didn't expect it. My co-host D-Law probably didn't expect. We didn't expect it. We didn't expect that in the beginning of the year. We kind of didn't let that thought trend come to our mind when we previewed the Boston Celtics back in September. Well, could it be a possibility Jason Tatum came back? No, man. He tore his Achilles deep in the playoffs last season against the Knicks. Just take a year off, come back, and come back for 2026, 2027 season. But Boston, he came back. Boston made some moves at trade deadline, getting Vooch and all that stuff. But then, you get to the playoffs with the Celtics, and it's like, it's just, They went to 7, and it's kind of wasn't enough right there. And the Sixers team that were kind of finding themselves and whatnot, their superstar and player Embiid didn't play for most of the season. It's just like, I feel like they should have won the series, but they didn't. And you gotta give Philly credit. The two young guys, young backcourt mates for years to come for them, and the Edgecombe and Maxey, did their thing. I had off to those two young guys until they ran to a very more better team than New York Knicks, and they got ran out the series. So those two teams, got a lot of questions to ask. What about their futures and whatnot? The New York Knicks came like a buzzsaw in a sense. I don't say like a juggernaut, but they, after that Atlanta series, they kind of woke the hell up. You heard rumors about Mike Brown, his job security, which I think is bogus. And I know the Knicks have probably paid a lot of coaches over the years to go away, but you can't do that after 1 year of Mike Brown. You have to find tips. You can't do that. But after the Atlanta series, then kind of, playing around with their food with them, they came in and just laid a smack down on them, and then they haven't looked back since. They beat down the Hawks, especially that game 6. They beat the shit out of them. Beat down the Sixers. Beat down the Cavs. And now they're matched up against against San Antonio Spurs in the NBA Finals once again. If y'all follow the show, like, we barely talked about the Raptors in the Cavs series too much till they got to Game 7. Because, that kind of felt like the NBA TV series. And, we didn't foresee Toronto being in the playoffs, kind of like a fringe playoff team, but we have them going Game 7 with Cleveland like this. And I give Toronto credit. They stretched it out. But, are they a team that you think come next year they'll be a playoff team again? The way they are constructed, I don't know. I like the coach a lot. But B.I. can't stay healthy. Emmanuel quickly can't stay healthy. Jacob Patel was what? Unplayable in that series. Grady Dick, part of a misfire when they drafted him. And then the Cavs, it's like, damn. You bring back James Harden next year, but damn. I don't think it's going to be good. And with James's history the past few years, will he be staying there for the long haul for the rest of his career? Probably not. So you got questions with that. They always had reports saying they going to bring everybody back. We'll see about that, including Coach Kenny Atkinson. So Cleveland be back in the fold of things. And then you look around the East and stuff like that. Miami Heat, Charlotte Hornets. What can they do to get better? Is it maturity? Is it time? Does Miami go all in for Giannis? We'll see. For the Hornets, can the maturity finally pull through that organization? Time will tell. Detroit, Orlando. We're talking about Orlando here in a second. But Detroit, they're kind of in the same boat of the OKC Thunder. Got the number 1 seed. Nobody really expected it. They lost in the second round. Kind of similar to OKC did a couple years ago. Can they stay on this path right here if you're Detroit? Or they kind of come back, take a little dip right here? That's a very interesting question. They got some questions as well. They need to find extra shooting, ball handling. Jalen Duren getting all NBA earns him a supermax contract, which I think they're gonna give it to him. But his playing in playoffs wasn't all that great. Wasn't all that great. JB Bickerstaff got a lot of work to do with that crew. But I think they're on the right path. And then, the Orlando Magic got a new coach. Could they be in the running for Giannis' sakes? A lot of people saying you got to give up Paolo Banchero to get Giannis, but I don't think he should do that. I don't think he should. So for the East, the Knicks making the finals once again, great. Great for the league. You got Wemby in the Garden. I mean, you couldn't ask for more. And Knicks fans, some of y'all out in those streets and saying like that and saying we want Wemby and stuff like that. Be careful what you wish for on that one. Be careful what you wish for on that one because, like I discussed in the first segment, he kind of showed that he can be that dude and be nasty if he needs to be. And New York, y'all can be real nasty, and he can feed off that, and he can turn that very badly for y'all on the basketball court. We'll see. But we'll see. But Knicks fans, be careful what you wish for on that one. Because it could come back to bite you hard. In all honesty, with the injuries to OKC and stuff like that, y'all probably been up seeing OKC in the finals. And Mark is saying, Wemby might say the NBA. I said that he's on his way. He's on his way. Not there yet, but he's on his way. I think if Adam Silver don't shoot himself, let me use my words on YouTube, all this stuff. If Adam Silver don't screw up things, with the new rules and stuff like that, tanking and other things, stuff like that, he got something on Wemby. He does. Just knock on wood that he stays healthy. But I gotta talk about this. The OKC Thunder. What after this loss? What should they do? With this squad. All right. If you kind of look at things here about the OKC Thunder, what's the future for them? Do they kind of make trades and stuff like that? Do they kind of look ahead? So, okay, can this player maximize, our team? Can this guy maximize us going against the Spurs, stuff like that? All that good junk, you know what I'm saying? And I think it starts with the draft here. Now, disregard the 17th pick because that goes to Philly. I mean, excuse me. The other pick went to Philly, but they got the 17th pick here. They got 2 picks under the top 20. Second round pick at pick 37. Now, that second round pick, depending on how the draft board falls, they could use that an international guy and kind of stash for a couple of years. But these 2 picks here for OKC, I think that's the ones you got to see, like how things are going to shape out for them. This draft right here, and I talk about, we talked about the past couple of weeks here about the draft lottery and all this stuff. This draft here is very good. Could be franchise changing. Well, time will tell. But I think, after the top guys of Boozer, Peterson, AJ Demista, A-Cup, Feinlein, Keaton Wagler, those guys, after those guys, you still can get some quality players, some guys, I don't say role players, but guys that can fill voids, stuff like that. Now we're going to be superstars, stuff like that, but can fill some voids on your team. And with the OKC Thunder having the 12th pick from the Clippers and the 17th pick here, could they get somebody young and bring him in to kind of help shoulder the load? As we saw in their playoff loss to the Spurs, that they needed another scorer down low. Now, the other Jalen Williams played well, but he's more of a stretch big, not like a banger down low. And that is what you kind of need if you're the Thunder, a banger down low. Like a back to the basket type of dude. Because Isaiah Hartenstein's not really that back to the basket dude. Holmgren can be that like that, but in certain situations against certain players. Because as we saw in this series against Wemby, he's not backing down Wemby. He's not. And I'm not saying, I don't know if he could be that guy to do that. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? But if you look at these 2 picks here at 12 and 17, could you use those 2 picks to trade up to get somebody like that? I'm not saying you get into the top 3 with 12 and 17. I mean, that's not happening. You know what I'm saying? That's not happening. But as we know with OKC, they got a ton of draft capital. Capital for the next several years. And let me pull this up right here. Ton of draft capital. Over the years, if you're going to strike hot and trade up, this is the kind of draft to do it. I don't know. Maybe wait to maybe do it next year because the next year's draft could be something special as well. You had a lot of guys coming back to college. Guys like Gilbert Arenas' son, Elijah Arenas coming back for another year. Smart move by him to come back. Because I think, let's be real, if Elijah Arenas was healthy, it didn't have the accident and all that stuff. If he was fully healthy from the word go for USC, they possibly will make the tournament, and we possibly talk about him in the top 5. You're talking about 6'5", 6'6" combo guard that can score. Got a nice frame to him. You possibly talk about someone like that going top 5. But since he didn't have the season that he had, coming back for another year, okay, build your stock up, dominate the Big Ten, show that you worth and show your worth, then come back and be in that discussion for the top 5 pick next year. So if you look at some of these withdrawals and stuff like that, him coming back, smart move. Amari Allen for Alabama, very smart move for him to come back. So things he got to work on. Okay, the height thing. All year I'm thinking like, damn, this dude's 6'8" and stuff like that. And then you kind of look at it now, he's like 6'4", 6'5". So you 3 inches shorter now than, without shoes and your hair. So you got to work on that. Okay. You're just a lot smaller than a lot of these teams projected. So what can you do about it? You got to work on your ball handling. You got to work on your shooting. I think your defense is solid. Your rebound is solid for a guy your size. You got a nice frame to you. But can you work on your ball handling, shooting, and offensive playmaking to be a solid contributor in the NBA? Or you could be like some of these one-trick ponies that only play defense in the NBA and, they leave you on an island to yourself. And especially now, him going cold during SEC play, not shooting 3-ball well in a Nate Oates system. Like, how the hell can that happen? So him coming back, smart. So Alkovich coming back, smart. I don't want to say smart, but he could have came out and got, be honest with you, could have been a good pickup for the Thunder around these 2 picks. They're going to be real about that. If you really think about that. So those guys came to mind, and you got like the diaper dandies coming in, like, Caleb Hope, for example, going to Arizona, how that's going to work, how he going to play, how he going to transition to things. So if you're OKC, do you sell all in for this draft or just wait to next year's draft and how the lottery structure, all that stuff changes? Do you make a move then? There. Because we don't know how next year is going to go come the draft lottery and all that stuff and the rules, the anti-tank and all that stuff. How's that going to shake out for teams next year? It's going to be tough. So do you sell your chips now and trying to get into the top 3 or maybe top 4 to get somebody? I don't know. It's hard to say. It's hard to say what Sam Presti will do because Sam Presti is a guy that really don't do really major things, if we're going to be honest. Training for Carmelo, major thing. Getting Paul George, major, and keep him around, major. Training James Harden, major. But it's not like every 2 years he's doing major things. It's like very key moments that he does these moves for him, for the organization, and has really kept the team afloat, for years since, he got that job. selling high on Paul George and getting Shea and all those draft picks, very genius move. And then as the Clippers are kind of staring down the barrel of a rebuild, you got that draft capital for years to come. Like we've seen stories about the Clippers maybe entertaining offers for Kawhi Leonard. And then once Kawhi Leonard's gone, if he's traded, who they got left? Just Darius Garland, Benedict Mathurin. That's it. Rebuild. In a very nice arena. Look at the salary for OKC real quick. Chet Holmgren, $41 million. Jalen Williams, 41. Shea, 40.8, which I think he'll get a raise here soon. Now, guys like Isaiah Hartenstein, Lou Dort, what do you do about those two guys? Like I mentioned about this draft, like you can find some wing players and scorers like that, two-way guys that could probably provide a little more scoring for you than Lou Dort does. And Lou Dort's fine defensively, all that stuff. And if Lou Dort come back and take a pay cut, hey, that's great. Well, I don't think he would do, but if he come back and save his team and his core and take a pay cut, I think that'd be great for them. But I don't see that happening. Hartenstein, damn near $30 million. And then he averaging, let me pull up his average real quick. So games played for Isaiah Hartenstein, 47 games, 24 minutes of action. And if y'all see the minutes of action for the OKC Thunder, I mean, it's like a lot of times they blow out teams and then they play other guys a lot and stuff like that. So if you see the minutes thing, it's like they blow these guys out and then they send the starters out, in which, if you're the best team in the league, you're going to do that. If they had like Tom Thibodeau, for example, on the coaching sideline, then those minutes would be drastically different. But, the balance of this squad kind of helps with that. But having said that, 9.2 points per game for the year, 9.4 rebounds, 3.5 assists. So not even a damn double-double he averaged. Like I said, the minutes thing that kind of contributed that to a little bit. But, could have been a little bit better. And then you talking about paying a guy named damn near $30 million to be slightly below double-double guy. That's a lot right there. That's really a lot for a guy who you signed. Yes, you won a championship with him. I feel like, a lot left to be desired, if we're going to be real. So I don't know. It's like, Lou Dort gave you 69 games this year. It's like, do you keep one or the other? Do you cut both? Just kind of stay under the apron, all that stuff? It's really hard to say. But, if they keep somebody, I think they'll keep Hartenstein for another year and let Lou Dort go. Now, you got other team options here. Kendrick Williams, he's at 7.6 million. Casey Wallace, he's due for an extension as well. You got guys like Isaiah Joe at 11.32 million. So you may move him. Aaron Wiggins is 9.22 million. So you may be bad to think about moving him. So they got a lot of questions here that if they can offload guys and whatnot, they can use those draft picks to replace them. But what capital can you get like guys like Isaiah Joe and Aaron Wiggins back? Can you get a first round pick out of those guys? Can you get multiple second round picks? Trying to look at teams' cap space. Can you dump them off somewhere? Let me pull it up real quick. I'm pulling the cap space right now. The Bulls right now are projected to have the most cap space, $72 million. Let me get at least the top 5 here. I'll stretch it out to 6. So you got the Bulls 72 million. The Lakers at 59.7. Now put an asterisk by the Lakers because you got LeBron's a cap hold, Austin Reeves with a player option. I think Jackson Hayes as well in the same boat. DeAndre Ayton with the player option. I think Marcus Smart player option. I think Luke Kennard has a cap hold as well. So yeah, on paper, the Lakers got 59.7 million, but that can change depending on what happens with them. And, God knows what's going to happen with them. The Brooklyn Nets, $44.3 million. Detroit, $32 million, which I think a lot of that will probably go to Jalen Duran there. Utah Jazz, 27.1, and Memphis is 24.4. So if you're OKC, can you dump a couple of guys at these places? Like the Pistons, they need more scoring and ball handling. They took a chance on one of these two guys. The Nets, they can take any play they should. The Grizzlies, same boat. So I was thinking, you're OKC, just kind of outlining things at the top of my head. Like, don't be in a rush to do it. If you can, get this guy healthy, Jalen Williams healthy. Get Chet Holmgren his confidence up here back. But don't be in a rush to make a move just to make a move. You know what I'm saying? Don't be in a rush to make a move just to make a move. Because, let's be real. Who are you going to go after? It's going to be real. Giannis? It'd be a good counter right there. But Giannis is already in his 30s and Chet Holmgren is in his 20s. You're talking about like a 10-year difference there. And then and that's probably banking on also if you trade up to get somebody. Let's just throw the scenario out here about getting a guy like Cam Boozer, for example. So you're banking on that right there. So if you're the Thunder, you're staying pat for the most part. I said you got big decisions with Lou Dort, Isaiah Hartenstein, whatnot. Can you maybe use those player options for those two guys, to facilitate Giannis trade if you go after him? But I think for the main thing for the Thunder, you get Jalen Williams healthy, and then get him back up to speed, and then kind of figure out things from there. And I think that should be the game plan to do. Is figure out things there. Or whatnot. And Sam Presti will figure out, but I think that's what you got to do as an organization. gotta make the hard decisions because you need to bang it down low. Because Chet Holmgren is not really a bang it down low. So can you find a cheaper option out there? In my humble opinion. And you need somebody like Hartenside, but like I said, he really ain't been available this year. Lou Dort, if he hit a couple more shots in Game 7, could that put y'all over the edge? But like I mentioned about earlier, though, you're going to see this San Antonio Spurs team for years to come. And like I said earlier about Victor Wembanyama and Chet Holmgren, he kind of made his mission to every time he's faced against him, he'll make his life a living hell. And if that's one weakness that he and the Spurs can exploit every damn time in the game, then you gotta make a change. That's like the one thing kind of holding you back to win the championships, possibly. Then you gotta make that move. Like, Chet, we love you, all that stuff, but or you probably talking owner and stuff like that. We love Chet and stuff like that, but damn, if this is gonna be a result every time he played Victor Wembanyama, we gotta make a move. We gotta make a move. So if you're an OKC fan, don't sweat about them blowing the team. Don't sweat about that. But I do see some changes happen with the role players and stuff like that, and your starters. And stay on the subject, Chet Holmgren, real quick. Somebody made a good point on X I saw last night on Jeff Goodman's post. Chet Holmgren will probably make the USA squad come LA Olympics. I think that's a given, depending on injury. But somebody made a good point. That person made a good point saying, if he's gonna play against this dude like 2 years down the road in LA in a possible gold medal matchup, forget about it. That France is winning that title. So in 2 years, Chet Holmgren, he got to show up against this dude. A dude that seems like every offseason he's looking at edge to get better every time. Like a Michael Jordan, like a Kobe Bryant, like a LeBron James. Those top dudes. Giannis. Anthony Edwards. If he can stay out of the baby mama drama. But I think you're an OKC thing. You're okay. You're in better position than most teams around the league. It sucks going out like this, but I think you're in a better position than most teams in this league. You like the top teams in Casper. You're way positioned better than the Bulls. You're way positioned better position than the Lakers. Way better position than the Brooklyn Nets. Way better position than Detroit Pistons. Utah Jazz. Memphis Grizzlies. So those teams you know you're better in. Now I look in the Casper thing, then you got the Hornets, the Mavericks, Masai Ujiri. What's going to happen there? That's that team to kind of keep an eye on the next couple of years, what they do. Then you got the Spurs and Hawks, and Spurs part of your arch nemesis that you have to worry about. And then the Atlanta Hawks, the Atlanta Hawks, you have to worry about them, plus their knees. But the Mavericks and Spurs within your own division, like I said, Masai Ujiri, very fine president, and a guy, if you need to do a rebuild and a tear down, he's your dude. He is your dude. He's kind of like Masai Ujiri is like in a sense, kind of like a private equity. If private equity was a person and you apply it to like the general manager spot, that's him. That's Masai Ujiri right there. I mean, if some of y'all don't know about private equity, they buy stuff, gain assets, but then they're trying to cut costs and all that stuff, and this metal and all that stuff. That's him. And you kind of saw that right now, getting rid of Jason Kidd. And plus, he got all that money from the Aldersons, and we know how they roll too. So, interesting what's happened with the Mavs. What to do with Kyrie? He's already close to his mid-30s. Klay Thompson, what you gonna do with him? The big men. Questions about them. So a lot of questions from the Mavs, but I think he's gonna figure ways to get things rolling there around Cooper Flag, and then, like I said about the Spurs, they got cap space, but it's like that money can be used up for guys like Stephon Castle, Vasil, and all that other guys down the line here. Victor, what they gonna do with De'Aaron Fox here? That's another thing to kind of keep an eye on. Are they gonna bank? How soon they gonna bank on Dylan Harper and get rid of De'Aaron Fox? Okay, that's one edge. And we're talking about the draft lottery reform, all this stuff. That's one team that really benefited is the San Antonio Spurs. Getting Victor, getting Stephon Castle, the 4th pick, getting Dylan Harper at number 2 overall. That's the damn luck right there. And damn it, if they got the number 1 pick to get Cooper Flag, whoa boy, the league been cooked. Him that stretch 4th spot or maybe 3 spot with Victor. So, like I said, OKC fans, don't trip. Don't let these think pieces articles. They doing new stories on that stuff. You got to trade Chet Holmgren now. Blah 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 blah. Don't buy into all that. Just wait till see how things go. Wait to see how the draft goes. If they make a move, they make a move. But I don't think they'll make a major moves. You know what I'm saying? No, they ain't gonna make a major move. So, before I get out of here, let's D-Locke show us up here within the next couple minutes or so. I do want to talk about one Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark has, I don't say struggled this far this season for the Indiana Fever. And I hate to talk about our first WNBA subject like this. And I know Caitlin Clark talk is nauseating because people just kind of just go off the deep end talking about her, and then got bringing Angel Reese to talk about her. You still got to keep that Joker to the Batman or Superman to Dark Side. Magneto to the X-Men. LeBron and Skip Bayless. You get my point. You always got to keep those around and all that stuff. But the last game that the Fever had, let me pull it up here. Trying to find it. They lost to the Portland Fire, who are 6-4, by the way. Lost to them to 184. Clark in 21 matches had 6 points, 0 for 2 for 3-point land, 6 assists, only 1 turnover. But I think what the main thing was, the Fire in the defense really held her down and really frustrated her and whatnot. And you kind of see the videos, and if you see the video, you've seen the video online, her and Coach Stephanie, let me pull up the coach's name, Stephanie, Stephanie White, who they got from the Kinetic Sun. You see the the argument, and then her subbing in the player in to replace her. Like, there's a lot of not a lot of positive energy right now for Caitlin Clark or whatnot in this team. And a team that, you're talking about year 3 for Caitlin, that you kind of expect a little bit more. Now, yes, you added 2 new teams and whatnot, and you never know how those going to go. Like last year, the Golden State Valkyries, they came out, played very strong from the word go, and made the playoffs. And then this year, thus far, you got the Toronto Tempo. They're 5-4. In their first year, and then the Portland Fire 6-4 right now, and then last year's expansion team, Golden State Valkyrie, 5-3. So your expansion teams are playing pretty well for the most part. We'll see if they last. We'll see. But shout out to the Minnesota Lynx, 6-2 without Nafisa Collier. And once she comes back, I think that unit will be a lot stronger. But she's really struggling right now, and it's just like, is it the coaching? Because I thought, like I said, Stephanie White is a good hire. Communication issues. Is it like the roster structure around her, which I don't think it should be that, but you never know. With WNBA, everybody's saying, it's cutthroat and all that stuff, but are you finding the right players to go along with her? It's just like her emotions getting the best to her. So it's like, she's taking out on the coach, she's taking out on her teammates, what's saying behind closed doors within herself and her family. The turnovers don't help her at all. Recent loss to the Valkyries, she committed 5 turnovers, including two costly ones in crunch times. Some people are saying she's not fully healthy due to back soreness and stuff like that. Some people are saying Stephanie White's systems are kind of over the place, and that put her in the best spot for her to succeed. Granted, she's averaging 20 points and 8 assists and 4 rebounds. They're not using her right. But just look at this team and this roster, Clark, Aaliyah Boston, Kelsey Mitchell, Sophie Cunningham, Malika Thompson off the bench. Raven Johnson, who they drafted in the first round. So it's like a very good squad. And I was, curious how things going to shake out for them. Now, next game is Thursday against the Atlanta Dream, who's one or more top teams in the WNBA right now. And that's against, her arch nemesis, Angel Reese. And Angel Reese, who's averaging 11 rebounds right now, 13 points a game. 3 assists for Miss Reese. And look at the blocks. And 1 block per game. Alyssa Gray averaging 20 points for the Atlanta Dream. Jordan Canada, 6.5 assists for her, 11.4 points for her. So you go into this matchup, kind of evenly matched to a sense, but again, Portland Fire kind of laid out the blueprint of slowing down Caitlin Clark earlier in her career, WNBA career. Because in college, she was phenomenal. We're going to take that away from her. But, you play against East Tuckalake State, you get 50 points, stuff like that. You playing against who's the bottom feeder in the Big Ten basketball, in women's. Shit. Who's the bottom feeder? Let me pull it up real quick. Okay, for example, Rutgers this year was like a bottom feeder. But I don't think that's not going to happen with Reedus in charge of the Rutgers. They ain't going to go 9 for 20 next year. I'm not saying they can be contenders, but Reedus is not going to happen in the bottom of the Big Ten. Let's be real about that. Like Northwestern, for example, in Penn State, you can get 30 off them. Stuff like that. But as you've seen, like, when she plays tough competition, we saw that in the tournament, stuff like that. Good as I would play and all that stuff. When you go against South Carolina, you go against UConn and whatnot, USC, UCLA, then they kind of put the hammer to her. So I think she got to figure it out. Professionally, she's got to figure it out. I know she does the NBA stuff like that. They're trying to get more in the spotlight, but I think she's got to figure out here first instead of trying to do all this here. You know what I'm saying? Get this figured out first. A lot of people kind of trying to compare her to Steph Curry and whatnot. It took him a while to get this figured out before we saw the transformation, what he is now. Once he got this figured out and set in stone and on cruise control, then, he's got the golf deals, the TV deals, the movies, the sponsorships, was with Under Armour and now a free agent. The deals from his wife and stuff like that. But he figured this out here first. He got through the injuries. Figured out stuff, how to be a pro, all that stuff. Granted, yes, his daddy was a pro for a very long time, but you get my point. Once he figured out that here, everything else kind of came to ease. I think once she gets that figured out here, playing wise, hopefully find the right coach, and here, I think that's the main thing here, because I could tell she listens to what goes on social media and stuff like that. When people say about her, I think she pays little bit too much attention to that. But if she can focus here, that's the main thing. Build some camaraderie with her teammates. I'm not saying be besties for everybody, but if you feel a nice baseline continuity with everybody, I think they'll go a long way for her. Because like I said, let's look at the East standings. You know, they're in a bad spot. You know, Washington, Chicago, and Connecticut are going to be the bottom feeders of the East. So put them to the side. New York, Toronto, and Atlanta. You can catch them. Toronto's a newbie. You can catch them. New York, you know, veteran team, but they can't be had. Atlanta, new players, stuff like that. We'll see how they maintain that success. So her, I got a player like Leah Boston can continue that growth. I think they'd be very set in stone. But we shall see. But things don't go very well, and throughout the season, could there be a shakeup there? We'll see. But I hope she figures it out, because the league is kind of really bank on her to be that player. And so far, you know. And then, you know, the NBC reporter refutes Skip Bayless' viral post regarding his head coach dismissal. Yeah, if y'all didn't see, Skip Bayless was, I guess, reading other sources saying that Stephanie White might be gone, which I ain't think it was going to happen. They just got her there. But the Fever are keeping Stephanie White for the time being. So we'll see about that. But Skip Bayless just tweets, like, Skip Bayless just tweets stuff, and then boom, he just leaves his computer. Like, he don't go back and forth with a lot of people. If y'all know this on social media, he don't go back and forth with a lot of folks on social media. He does his tweet and go about his day or night, whatever. So, if you're a Fever fan, you know, what do y'all think if y'all see this clip? You know, can y'all think things figured out? Is it like a small little spat early in the season? Or there's big issues to that are awry? We'll see. But it's been very interesting, you know, how things going to shake out for the rest of the year. Move forward. But this has been our show tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for tuning in with us. I know I didn't preview the NBA Finals. We touched it on here and there, but there's so much other stuff to get into and stuff like that. Like that Game 7 was so good that you could barely touch the NBA Finals. But the NBA Finals should be exciting between the Spurs and Knicks. You get Wemby in the Garden for 2 games. You get the rematch of 1999, the lockout season. It's going to be a very competitive series. Mike Brown, once again in the NBA Finals, and he finally get that one chip. Very successful coach, possibly future Hall of Famer. Can he finally get an NBA chip that's kind of eluding him most of his coaching career? Head coaching career, I should say. And Mitch Johnson, look at him. First time in the playoffs, take over for a legendary coach, Greg Popovich. Going to the NBA Finals his first year. Now, you know, can he take the next level as a coach? Yeah, the series starts out in San Antonio, but he got to coach up in New York. And that crowd has been feasting for a title opportunity for a very long time. Can he will his young team under the pressure to get them their 6th NBA title? So a lot of questions there, mostly for the head coaches there. But this has been our show tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for tuning in with us. like I said, do follow Iron Sports Radio on X, on YouTube, and on Instagram as well. We get that back up and rolling again. So do follow us on those social media sites, and also subscribe to the YouTube channel as well. Do follow at us at X at Fast Break at ISR. That is Fast Break at IESR. Do follow my cohort Locke at Black Dash 813. That's Black Dash 813. Also follow myself on X at Conference288. That's Conference288. Also, new numbers. Do have another page on the side called the Crooks Process. You follow me on Facebook and Instagram on that, and on TikTok, Crooks Process. We'll do some NBA videos on there as well. So do follow me on those channels as well. But till then, ladies and gentlemen, next week, if we don't do a show on Wednesday, we'll see about that. But next Sunday, if we don't do a show on Wednesday, Game 1 and 2 NBA Finals will pass. We'll talk about that. Get D-Locke's thought on the OKC Thunder, their future, and talk a little bit of draft NBA in the mix as well. But have a good night. Be safe out there. Talk to you later.